Hey, indie film lovers, thank you for tuning in to Indie Cinema New York on BRIC TV. I'm your host, Kweighbaye, and I love indie films. It's authentic, it's innovative, and if it's happening in NYC, I want you to know about it. That said, did you know that the 23rd edition of the New York African Film Festival is happening the entire month of May at Lincoln Center, Maysles, and BAM? Under the banner Modern Days, Ancient Nights, 50 Years of African Filmmaking, the festival honors the legacy of Senegalese pioneer and father of African cinema, Ousmane Sembène. AFF will be screening more than 50 works from over 25 countries, highlighting a new generation of African filmmakers from Africa and the diaspora. In the moment, I'll introduce you to our guest director, Senay Berhe, who is a co-creator of Afripedia. But first, here's the festival's official trailer.
I think it's very difficult, especially when you're a teenager, to work out what you want to do. And you'll have teachers and your parents and everyone that'll be kind of trying to push you in one direction.
I think women needs to have more vision. Women needs to believe in themselves as an entity of doing something for the society.
Simply using the word Africa is loaded. People have so many ideas of what Africa is. People are finally getting to the place where they're hungry for this type of coverage. That means that we're making a difference and showing how creativity really has the power to influence.
That was Afripedia, directed by our guest today, Senay Berhe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I thought Afripedia was amazing. When I visited the website, I absolutely connected with it. Can you tell me a little bit about, the idea, who you're working with, and how you developed this project?
Well, yeah, I'm one of 3 co-directors, along with my colleagues Benjamin Taft and Teddy Goitom. And we run an independent film production company called Stockholm Films, where we produce and direct Afripedia. And Afripedia is a project that showcases and highlights African creatives. And so far, we produced 5 episodes, 30 minutes each, and we've been to Senegal, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Angola, and South Africa.
Wow.
And it's about. We see them as video mixtapes, showcasing creatives, filmmakers, photographers, musicians, artists who are, passionate about what they're doing and telling their own stories. And the project was actually born out of a need, because we didn't see those stories being told about the countries that we come from ourselves. My background is in East Africa, in Eritrea. And the stories that we saw was about war, poverty, and famine. So we decided that we want to change that narrative and highlight other type of stories. So that's why the project was started.
That's amazing. You said you were born in Eritrea, or your background's from Eritrea. Your parents are from there, and you grew up in Stockholm.
Yeah.
Tell us what it's like to be a black person growing up in Stockholm, and what why are you so attracted to stories from Africa, even though you grew up in Stockholm?
Oh, okay. That's a lot of questions. But yeah, I don't think there's a single story, you know. And growing up in Stockholm now is definitely not the same way as it was for me growing up. You know, I grew up in the suburbs of Stockholm. That's where the majority of immigrants live, and there was quite a few families from East Africa, from Eritrea. So we had a community, and me and my siblings really got, you know, found an identity in that. And my parents were very conservative. They didn't want us to speak Swedish in the house. We had to talk our own mother tongue, and yeah, I mean, for them, you know, they were really proud Africans and Eritreans, and that's how I grew up, you know, learning to be proud of where you come from. So that's something that I always, you know, carried. And
that's interesting. I mean, being proud of where you come from. I was also born in Liberia, but it wasn't until my late 20s that I was actually really excited or interested in learning more about my culture. Why do you think a lot of young Africans growing up outside of Africa aren't really that interested in learning more about their culture until later on?
Yeah, I guess, you know, the Africans in the diaspora, we grew up with a duality of culture. So when you're a kid, you know, you really want to fit in, and I mean, it takes time to really find yourself. And I guess as you grow, you kind of start to realize, you know, the beauty of what you have in your roots and your culture. And I think it's about, you know, finding time to actually to find yourself. And I think it's slowly changing now. You know, with social media, it's much easier to be connected, and the world is much smaller. One interesting thing about Sweden, though, I would say is that you know, Sweden really wants you to integrate, but they actually also let you, you know, keep your culture, and so I think that's a really beautiful thing in Sweden. But I also have to say that there are a lot of issues in Sweden, you know, growing up as a black at this point as well. You know, that should be, you know, I feel that I've been discriminated a lot just from the skin of my color. You know, they judge me before I say something. So there are issues, and I see a new generation of black Swedes that, you know, want to get their voice heard, and so they're regrouping, and actually making a difference.
And this Afripedia was started in 2014. Was it around the time where the young, you know, black Swedes or people from the diaspora were interested in like raising their voice, and was this a part of that whole movement?
I mean, we actually started this Afripedia back in 2008.
Oh wow, okay.
I mean, by doing research, just, you know, there wasn't so much to find online, but we actually started with a Google document and invited a lot of friends that, you know, could share a lot of clips, and that's the process how we actually started. You know, people in our network giving us tips on things to check out. It was mostly like music, but then we actually decided to go down to South Africa and do some research, and we shot a pilot episode. I saw
the South African pilot. You have Xander there.
Yeah.
Xander was also a part of the BRIC Film Festival, which is something that I produce. But he was in our festival 2 years ago, and he lives here now too, right?
Yeah,
and
he did.
You're also now in New York City.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just, me and my colleague Teddy, we relocated to New York last September, and we're part of an incubator program at the new museum where we're actually developing Afripedia into the next step. I mean, it's one part of it is the films, but we also want to create like an online platform where people can get access to African creatives, more like a talent database. So yeah.
So the new museum project that you guys were accepted for, it didn't start with Afripedia, right? What was the first project that you submitted? I think I read online that before Afripedia there was another project that you guys submitted.
Yeah, my colleague Teddy Goitom had I mean, it still exists, Stocktown, which is at this point, it's a video magazine that actually with over 40 curators around the world that finds interesting clips and write about it. So, but we presented Afripedia and the vision for the platform in Barcelona last year, and the new museum was there presenting new ink, and that's actually how we got to the new museum through that, actually through Afripedia.
So what's the impact? Like, how are people relating to these stories? How are they relating to seeing their culture highlighted in such a creative way?
I mean, it's been almost overwhelming. I mean, what I feel that Afripedia does is that we actually, makes the world much smaller, because, we introduce local artists to the world, and an example is Jojo Abbott that we featured in the Ghana episode. She recently performed at Apollo, and 2 weeks ago she opened up for Lauryn Hill. So it's just.
Was it the Ghana, the woman with the motorcycle?
No, that was Rihanna. She's an amazing artist.
Yeah.
And, but the impact has, it really has opened up a lot of doors. But I feel that we are, still in the developing stage, and so much that we are still want to produce and do. And we just scratched the surface so far, and we're always looking for more people that want to be part of changing the narrative to help us and develop this project.
In your Kenya episode, I saw that you mentioned one of the people were like, Africans are always looking for a hero, and the hero that they're looking for is not an African. Do you think that this project will have Africans looking back to themselves or their own people as heroes? I
think it's like, I think we all have to, play a part of, Afripedia is about creating role models, and I think we all have to play that part to kind of, to become those heroes and be able to, I see really the ourselves in the diaspora, to take responsibility and want to go back to actually take whatever knowledge you have and try to improve that.
So Afripedia.com, that's the website, and it's playing at the film festival, African Film Festival, on what day? May 27th at 7 p.m. is it?
Yeah.
At the Ambrose, right?
And we are actually just produced new shorts, 3 shorts from New York. They're playing May 10th at the African Film Festival. Okay,
I think we're about to wrap up. I'm not too sure how long we have. So you can find tickets for that screening and for other screenings during the 23rd African Film Festival by visiting africanfilmny.org. Senay, before we wrap up, please tell our guests how they can stay up to date about your projects.
You can sign up at our site, afripedia.com, or you could follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook under the name Afripedia.